Hey golfers, and welcome back to the Second Swing YouTube channel for another, modified edition of Live at Lunch. We unfortunately were experiencing some technical difficulties today here at our studio with some internet issues and whatnot. So we're recording this and then going to post it on the YouTube channel for a modified edition of Live at Lunch. But nonetheless, it's a very special one because we've got a very cool new app service software that can help you play better golf. And so today joining us is Dr. Sasho MacKenzie with the Stack system. And in particular, Dr. MacKenzie is going to talk about the Stack putting app. So first of all, Dr. MacKenzie, thank you for joining us and spending some time with us and dealing with some of the techie issues already that you've kind of dealt with today. But we appreciate the time. How are things going for you?
Yeah, going great. I think the flood of live listeners jammed up the system,
Yes.
so that's a positive. I'm putting a positive spin on this, Drew.
Yes, that's a
Great
great
to
way
be
to
here.
put it, That's exactly how I'm going to take it and report it to the team as well. So
I broke
now,
the internet today.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're just breaking the internet here with second swing and stack putting. So that's kind of so stack putting. The stack system for the golfers that are watching this and they're familiar with, you're supposed to gain club speed with that. It's about speed and power and gaining distance. And then I see stack putting, and to me, I think of the opposite end of the spectrum in golf. I think of it's finesse that's so technical, and so what got you and the team there into the putt and helping putting, right? Completely different side of golf again. What was it that intrigued you about that?
Well, I've been doing putting research for 25 years. Way back when I was doing my PhD thesis, I did a little side project looking at plumb bobbing. Um,
Wow.
that was kind of the first putting study I published, and I've done a lot of research into equipment. And I have a lot. When I do putting studies, I collect a lot of data on what goes into making successful putters successful versus unsuccessful putters, struggle. And I have some, because of that, I have some really solid ideas around the best ways to practice.
Okay.
And thanks to the Stack system and having an app, I was able to put this into a form that can help a lot of golfers. Um, Big on practicing in the most efficient way. If you're like everybody else, you're a golf geek who wants to get better at golf but don't have a ton of time, then stack putting is for you. So we target the things that will have the most impact on your putting performance in the most efficient way. And it's really something that anybody who's passionate about their golf game should try. It's very easy to use and very effective.
Yeah, so it's very data based, and we've
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of that stuff out there in the golf industry now. There are ways to get information, about your game. Obviously, in a second swing fitting, you go in and swing drivers or irons or whatever it might be, and you've got TrackMan Launch Monitor giving you all this information. You've obviously got stuff like Quintech Ball Roll, and you can learn stuff that way in the fitting. There's on and on and on, right? Arcos is something I have on my phone to learn about my game out on the golf course. So a ton of data here as well with stack putting. So can you try to summarize all the information that golfers will get about their putting and then exactly how that's maybe gathered?
Sure. So I think we've got three modes in stack putting: Premier, On Course, and Creative. The vast majority of our users use Premier mode. So I think I'll describe that and explain why it's the best way to practice, some of the data that's collected, and the
Sure.
insights you can get out of it. So with Premiere mode, we wanted to kind of constrain the practice time. We don't want someone out there for an hour, so it takes about 15 minutes. The app will give you 18 holes to putt, 18 essentially first putts that you have
Okay.
to putt out. And the putts that are selected are based on data from Mark Brody's research, where you can see what putt lengths separate good putters from bad putters. So there's nothing under 3 feet, and
Okay.
the longer lag putting doesn't seem to be a separator. We can talk about that in creative, but the putting is based on mostly from putts from 3 to 7 feet, and then a bunch from 8 to 12 feet, and then the frequency drops down as you get closer to 30 feet. So to do Premier, you need a practice putting green that has a little bit of slope, and you can hit putts up to 30 feet in length. When you start the session, the app will say, hey, hole 1, 6 feet uphill left to right. So you find an empty hole on the green. There could be other people on the putting green. It doesn't matter. Pretty much any hole on the green, you'll be able to find a putt that, that's 6 feet uphill left to right. Drop your ball at that spot, and you go through your regular putting routine. So you decide on the speed you want to hit the putt and the line that's going to work with that speed, and you try to execute on that. And the first thing you enter into the app is whether you've read the puck correctly. And this is a big value for the vast majority of golfers. They aren't as in tune with the if they miss because it was a misread or because it was a miss in their stroke. And the more people I see using stack putting, the more I realize how valuable this feature is. So you hit the putt, and the first thing you have to ask yourself is, did I hit the putt as intended? So you decided how fast you wanted to launch the ball and in what direction. As soon as you hit the putt, if you think, yeah, that ball launched at the correct speed, hit my line, that you should think it's going in. If it doesn't go in, then that's a misread. You executed as intended, the ball didn't go in, that putt was a misread, so you'll toggle that on in the app. Was it a line misread or a speed misread? Then you in this really easy interface, you enter the physical reason why the putt missed. And instead of thinking in terms of where the ball finishes around the hole, which you have less control over, I want people to think of the putt in terms of the launch characteristics. Those are things that you're more directly in control over.
Right.
Did you launch the ball too fast or too slow? So obviously if the ball ends up short, doesn't even get to the hole, then you would have launched it too slow. If the ball rolls 3 feet past, then you've launched it too fast. Or you could launch it too far left or right. Or a combination of speed and direction. Mm-hmm. If you sink the putt, you tap made. Depending on the miss, you tap one of those 9 other buttons. And then the app will say, hey, tell me about your second putt. You can hit tap in, which is most of the time what happens in these putts in Premier, or you enter a putt length, just an easy button, 1 to 9 feet or greater than 9 feet, and then whether you made or missed it. So you can only have up to 3 putts in stack putting. I don't think there's anybody out there 4 putting on the practice green. And you never know. And then the app will tell you how many strokes you've gained for that hole on the putts.
Oh, wow.
And what's cool is it's really cool. So before you even hit the putt, you can see, what your expected number of putts to finish the hole are and what the make percentage is. And we've baked into the app different abilities. So you could set your handicap at tour level, or all the way up to a 30 handicap, and the strokes gain statistics will adjust for your handicap. So it's not always if you're not a great putter, it won't always be a negative number. So that's helpful. So if you're a 20 handicap putter, you'd set the handicap level at 20. So then the app will tell you, hey, hole 2, 20 feet downhill left to right. You'll go on to that hole, quickly enter the information after you putt it. And what's great is it's really quick and easy to enter the information. I actually do it with my earbuds in, and you can just talk out commands real simply. So I leave the phone in my pocket, buzz around the green, play these 18 holes, and it will keep track of your strokes gained cumulatively as you go. And so it's really gamifying putting practice. So if you're just hitting putts during your putting practice, then there's not much meaning. It's like, well, if I sink it, I sink it. If I don't, I'll just drag it back and hit it again. But when it's documented, you have this sense of a little bit of pressure that this putt is important. So that's really key to motivating people with their putting practice. And then at the end of the session, we get a speed bias indication. Are you hitting putts too slow? Are you hitting putts too fast? And a direction bias. And this is something that's come out in the research. With the millions and millions of swings, that these are low hanging fruits in order to improve your putting. If you're consistently leaving putts short, and maybe you don't know this, right? You remember not necessarily all the aggregate of all your putts. Our memory is, it's not perfect. So the app is there to tell you, hey, look, on left to right breaking putts, you have a tendency to miss these to the left, and that the app tells you that, so then you can work on it. So that's the premier mode of stack putting. And we also have on course, which is the same as premier, but instead of the app telling you, hey, go find an 18-footer, you enter the first putt you have on the hole. So you land on the green, you're like, okay, I'm 30 feet away, and it's downhill left to right. So you set those parameters, and then you go on to a screen that's identical to premier putting. So there's not really many putting apps out there that allow you to get into that granular information on the course, in terms of, hey, do you have biases that are present there? And we have a lot of tour players that have their caddies actually using stack putting to enter that information. The tour player doesn't have to do anything. The caddy's just plugging in data as they go along to the course. And if there are any biases creeping up, they can address those right away. And then in the creative mode, you can basically create any type of practice session you want. So this was done for two reasons. One, I'm from Canada, and I have empathy for anybody that's locked inside for months at a time during the winter.
Same with anybody. The same way in Minnesota. The same thing here.
Exactly. So, I've got a little green in the lab. It's 20 feet long, roughly, by 8 feet across. And I can then set up real easy. We've made this really efficient to set up a putting combine, based on the green conditions that you have, the green constraints. So, hey, you can only hit putts up to 20 feet. Then you could work that in. Or based on your premier stuff, if you need to work on certain types of putts, left to right breaking putts in a certain length, you can set that up in creative. So it's targeting the things that I've found are most important in my research. So speed control and green reading are super important to improving your putting. In order to get better at those, you need to see more putts. You need to go through the process of reading a putt that breaks differently, uphill, downhill, left to right, slightly different distances in those lengths that matter, getting feedback in that, getting insights on that, so you can determine, hey, you know what, my green reading isn't great. And to get better at your speed control, you need to have those putts of different lengths. So that's what stack putting's doing. It's really making putting practice efficient and maximizing the insights you can get out of a really short duration putting session.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating to bring up this idea of green reading, because I think that's something that is almost dismissed so often in, when a player is maybe self-assessing themselves as a putter. It's, my leg putting is terrible, or, I keep missing these short 5-footers, but that it could be they have a really good putting stroke, a very consistent putting stroke that doesn't need any work. And instead it's actually that they just don't read greens very well. And so that's another element that can sort of be answered by this, that to me is very fascinating, because again, I'm just like any golfer. I have stretches where I feel like I'm putting well, and then there's stretches where I feel like I can't make anything. And I never even really thought of green reading as maybe one of the variables that's kind of out of sorts, if you will. So that in itself is a kind of a groundbreaking thing for me.
Right. And you think of some of the best tour players for putting are, just over 50% make rate from 8 feet. And you go, okay, well, what's accounting for, missing 50% of those putts? If you give them that same 8-footer that they miss a second time or a third time, or tell them to hit it 100 times, they're going to be sinking, 90% plus of those putts.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Their stroke is repeatable enough. The reason why they're, only sinking 50% is primarily due to misreads. Face angle variability plays an important role, but speed variability also plays a super important role. So that the green reading and the speed control are two key aspects that stack putting indirectly focuses on, forces people to think about, did they mis-execute on their speed, or did they have the wrong assessment of what the speed should be? And just going through that process in stack putting is super important. When I work with a tour player and then we go through stack putting, and I'll say, okay, did you misread the speed, or did you not execute on the intended speed? Like, let's say it's a 20-foot putt and they leave it 3 feet short. Well, the speed was wrong, but was it executed as intended? Or maybe they, as soon as they hit it, they're like, no, I didn't hit it hard enough. I know I didn't execute as I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And even at the tour level, a lot of they haven't really thought about, I just know I left it 3 feet short. Was that a misread? Did I not see it was into the grain or a little bit uphill? Or did I not execute as intended? You won't see that on the course. If they have 170 yards to the green and they think it's to the flag and they think it's an 8-iron, and the 8-iron ends up 10 yards short of the greens, right away they assess, did I mishit that, or did I misjudge how much wind was in my face? And they know the answer, right? But enough of and everyday golfers do the same thing. We constantly, after we hit a shot and we airmail a green, wonder what happened there. Did I catch a flyer? Did I not judge the distance correctly? Did I, not judge the elevation or the wind correctly? And we come to a decision about whether we executed as intended or maybe we didn't execute. But we don't do that enough with putting. Stack putting forces you to do that.
Right, because you're totally right in that when something goes wrong on the course, I feel like every golfer needs to know why, needs to come up with something. And it might not be necessarily correct, but they need to convince themselves of what that correct answer is, why I didn't, hit that tee shot where I wanted to. And again, it could be a bad swing, could be didn't play enough wind, could be a bunch of different things. But with putting, you're right. There's so much less of that. It's I stink at putting. And it's like, well,
right.
This is kind of telling you, okay, well, you are really good at these things, but this one thing is holding you back from being better or something like that. So yeah, that has to be a really cool part of stack putting, is the feedback that golfers are giving you because of, this maybe lack of knowledge or this sort of lack of conviction that they don't know what's wrong with the putting. And then through this, they're able to know, okay, maybe this area I thought I was strong with putting could be maybe my speed control. I thought I was really strong with that, but turns out I'm actually not, and that's the area of improvement I need. I imagine through all skill levels so far that have used stack putting, you've probably gotten some really cool kind of testimonials in that regard of players just learning something completely new about their putting tendencies that they had no idea of.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had dozens and dozens of positive reviews. To me, the coolest ones that we get are we have a series of graphs that show performance trends over time. So with every stack putting session in Premier, you get a cumulative strokes gain score for the 18 holes. And putting is volatile. If you sink 1 8-footer one day, and versus the next day, that's a full swing of a stroke, right? And from the tour level, because it's 50% probability. Mm-hmm. So there's some volatility, but it's great when you look at someone who's completed 30 or 40 stack putting sessions, and you can see their trend in strokes gained. So we've had several folks gain almost 4 strokes around on their putting. So they would be losing 4 strokes to a scratch, and now they're a scratch in terms of strokes gained. So you can see that line steadily increasing. And then what we can do is look without even talking to these stackers and see, okay, well, what did they improve? And you'll see their speed bias, for example. You'll see someone that has been hitting 65-70% of their putts slow, and gradually they bring that down to 50-50, right? So you don't want to have a bias. You don't want to be missing putts predominantly left or right or slow or fast. You want to zero out those biases. And it's really cool to get that feedback that people have picked up on that thanks to stack putting, and made the correction. And that they feel that, there's purpose with their practice. They enjoy. It's real easy to make it a habit before they go out and play to get this 15-minute session in. Tons of great feedback from mini tour players who used to have a pre-round routine that was kind of stale, and it would feel like it wouldn't really prepare them for the course. So if you do the stack putting session, the predominant feedback is when they get out to the course, it already feels like they've played around. They've already seen left to right breaks, 6-footers, the odd 15-footer, 20-footer, and they've already felt like they've had a little bit of pressure, right? That as they get on hole 15 and they're kind of strokes gained cumulative for the session is tracking well, they're like, all right, I'm going to buckle down for these next few holes, to make sure that I finish with a good score. So the feedback has been fantastic, and you can clearly see that it's helping people over time because of all the data that's tracked.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the really cool things about the fact that we're going to have these available. Our fitters are going to be working with the Stack app in putter fittings too, and have that ability. Obviously in our stores we have big putting greens that allow golfers to, as you've mentioned with the app, it asks you to hit all kinds of different putts. We've got the slope in our greens too now. And that's going to be really cool then to see, when players come in and maybe they bring their gamer in, they can do the 15-minute session and then they can try another putter and try it again. And you might see, a quick increase in, those strokes gained. Now, again, I know that the idea here is to do it several times and get kind of a big sample size of information. But, you can start to see those immediate results right away just in the store. And then obviously from there it becomes sort of that, continuously using the app, seeing, as you mentioned, the trend of those strokes gained going up, and then kind of marrying that with, making sure that on our end, the putter is fit right for that golfer. And that's how you can blend all these things together, maybe go get a lesson on the putting stroke if you need it from what you've learned on the app. And then all of a sudden you're putting like a pro.
Well, there's a really key feature that ties into what you've been talking about in terms of fitting. We have a statistical comparison button.
Oh, wow.
And related to that, before you start a session, so you go into Premiere, On Course, or Creative, you go, okay, start putting, and then the next screen that pops up are these statistical comparison tags. So we've got a field for putter. So you enter the current putter you're using, and then once you enter it once, it becomes the default and a drop down that you can change. So what putter are you using? What technique are you using? And the green speed. So for technique, you could say just, hey, normal, right? And that means something to you, your normal technique. And then whatever the particular green speed is. But then let's say you're thinking about, trying out a new putter. Well, maybe you're going to switch from a blade to a mallet, and you go into second swing, and you're like, right, I'm going to try out this, this new Ping mallet, the Tomcat 14. And so you go to a 15-minute session, and you can compare after doing a session with the Tomcat and a session with your regular blade putter, whatever it is. You can hit that statistical comparison button. And because you've tagged those sessions, it will show a statistical comparison for those putters.
Wow.
Same with technique. So if you remember a few years ago, Xander Schauffele had there was a lot of talk about, the arm lock style putting stroke. And he's, switched kind of mid-season, stuck with it for a few weeks, but his strokes gained putting actually faltered a little bit. And it made me wonder, he said that he did test it. I wonder, how much testing was done. So if you were using stack putting and you're looking about trying a new technique, I'm a big fan of heads up putting. I think everybody should give it a go. Or maybe you're going to go left hand low. Whatever technique modification you're making, tag it for that session. hey, I'm going to try left hand low today. Go do stack putting. You don't need to think of it. You don't need to, try to write anything down. Just go through tap as you regularly would. Then the next session you do, go back to normal technique, alternate between left hand low and your normal technique. And then after a few sessions, you can hit the statistical comparison button, and it will show you your strokes gained overall. How, if you have a left or a right miss tendency, a speed bias tendency, how you fare at different distances, and that can really inform your decision about whether you should switch techniques or about switching to a certain putter. And then even if you haven't done a comparison, but you notice that you tend to have a left or a right miss bias, well, that can put you into a certain model of putter. We know from a lot of the research that I've done with ping that toe hang putters will tend to have the ball, if you're a right-handed golfer, tends to leave the face more open. You'll tend to push more putts. So if you have a tendency to pull putts, well, then switching to a toe hang style can eliminate that bias. And similarly, if you're struggling with longer putts or you tend to leave putts short, you can play around with the head weight, for example. So if you know that you've got a bias in your data from doing stack putting, that can move you into a certain direction of putter to try when you go into second swing.
Right. Yeah. Because that's another element of the fitting experience too, because you go get fit for a driver here at second swing, and you're going to hit 3-4 drivers, get different shafts, and we tag those things on the TrackMan, and you get the different data sets from the shots you hit. This driver with this shaft, the next driver with the next shaft, etc. And it's a little bit tougher to gather that type of thing, with the putting in the store, and this provides us now with an easy way to do so. And again, as you mentioned, it's a quick 15-minute session that you put together. And I'll be honest, I don't like to practice putting for longer than 15-20 minutes, so this is perfect for me. And it works great because I'm the type of golfer, I show up maybe 20 minutes to a half hour before a tee time, hit a couple swings, get a feel for the green speed, right? That's what I tell myself, and then I'm good to go. So this falls right in line with my tendencies, and I imagine between all the fitting elements that we have a second swing, and then of course just the recreational golfer that's like me, it's really going to be a home run, I think. Just ease of use, application, and then all the information that you get.
Yeah, and there's also an express version of Premier on course where you don't have to enter whether it was a misread or what the misreason was. You just enter the number of putts. So the app will say, hole one, and it just sets up on one single screen. There's 18 putts on a single screen. Putt one, 6 feet downhill left to right, and you literally tap. It was a 1 putt, 2 putt, or a 3 putt. And then you look at hole 2, 12 feet straight up the hill, and you toggle whether it was a 1 putt, 2 putt, or 3 putt. So you can move through that very quickly. You can do 18 putts, in less than 10 minutes. And you're not getting the granular information on misreads or if you struggle with left to right putts. But if you're in a pinch and you're looking for a quick 10 minutes to hit a lot of different putts and track your strokes gained, then that's a great way to go. Yeah,
you're covering even the, I don't want to say more recreational, right? But the player that even does less preparation than I do before teeing off. So
exactly.
It's you're covering every base you can there. That's a really cool another aspect of this too. And so I as we start to kind of wrap up here, I did want to remind golfers as well. We have kind of a special treat for them. We have a link for a 30-day free trial for stack putting in the description of the video here. So take a look at that. And again, you can try this out for yourself and see all the information that you're going to get. And as Dr. MacKenzie has alluded to, that improvement and knowing what you need to improve is so valuable for your golf game. So I wanted to ask you too, as we start to wrap up, what is it about putting that, we've talked about it a little bit, but there's so much focus on drivers and irons, and even we've noticed it in like the number of views on our videos, right? So many people are gravitating towards drivers and irons, but putting is 40% of your golf shots, and so, or roughly, right? So what
Yeah,
is it
40.
about
Yep.
putting that people like ignore almost? And do you think this can kind of bring it to the forefront of how important putting is?
Yeah, I think it can be boring to practice. Um, and so I think that's
Yeah,
like, that's a reason why some people don't focus on it. And the way that people tend to practice doesn't make them any better at putting. So then you try a few things, you're like, well, it's kind of like random anyway, so I think I'll just roll the dice
sure.
when I go out on the course. So it's not fun to practice, and when you do practice it, you don't see an improvement. For example, a drill where you set up two tees and you're trying to make sure the putter head goes through those two tees. So you hit,
Right.
the idea being you hit the ball right in the center of the face. Well, where the ball hits in the face has such a small importance in terms of why someone's a good putter versus a bad putter, why you sink a putter, you don't sink a putt. Impact spot in the face doesn't really matter that much. The path of the putter doesn't really matter that much. Face angle at impact matters. Speed control really matters. Green reading really matters. So let give stack putting a try. Gamify your practice. Be motivated. Have fun doing it. Work on your green reading. Work on your speed control, and then you can actually see, yeah, your performance improve over time. You'll enjoy practicing, and you'll see a reason for practicing.
Sure. Yeah, that is up my alley. I mean, again, I've been someone, I'm kind of like this with the putter, and so
Yeah,
to see something like this that's so simple, so easy, right on my phone, right? I'm excited to give it a try. I know a lot of the viewers watching this are going to also take advantage of that 30-day free trial, and then obviously put it. Kind of in the bag, if you will, for themselves to use moving down the line here. So, as we start to wrap up again, Dr. MacKenzie, wanted to appreciate you for the time. Do you have any final parting thoughts for the viewers here as they sign up for that 30-day free trial?
yeah. Please give it a go. And be organized and think about something that you want to try, so you can use that statistical comparison feature. So we've got one of the variables, one of the factors is open. So we've got putter technique, green speed, but then there's a field called other. So you could choose to look at, I know it's kind of popular, I've seen it on social media, should you use a line in the ball? Should you not use a line in the
Oh
ball
yeah,
to see if it's better for putting? Pin out, pin in. So go do a session, type in the other field line, complete the session. Next time you go to do one, type no line. And then when you go to statistical comparison, you can check the other field and do compare line to no line, and you'll see if it's better for you. Pin in, pin out, sunglasses on, sunglasses off. Maybe you're trying to compare aim point to plumb bobbing. hopefully,
yeah,
hopefully aim point wins out in that regard, but you never know. For you, maybe there's a little magic in your plumb bobbing that no one else knows about. But it's important for you to give that a go. Or hey, head down to second swing, and I'm sure that you folks wouldn't mind if they ran through a couple of
oh of course.
sessions at your place to figure out which putter's best for them.
Yeah, I mean, it is actually funny to hear all the different ways people putt, and I say that, and I mean different putters, different types of putters, different grips, different lengths
Mm-hmm.
of putters. There's, you mentioned the green reading. It's the aim point or the plumb bob or sunglasses on or off. I mean, you've got all these different variables, and you can compare them statistically with this app
That's
and
right.
get exactly the information that you're looking for. So, yeah, this is really, really cool. I know our audience is going to love it. I know our customers in store are going to love it. And I think it's going to be a big win just for the industry as a whole, for golfers, especially looking to really improve that putting. So, Dr. MacKenzie, thank you for spending the time with us today. And golfers watching, if there's any questions you might have, any comments, please leave them below. We'll get to them. We'll answer your questions. And then, of course, sign up for that 30-day free trial. So, Dr. MacKenzie, thank you again for the time.
No problem. And Drew, I'd be happy to do, if you collate those questions. Maybe we can do another quick follow
Oh,
up
for sure.
Q&A where I answer those. So yeah, would love to address any questions any of the viewers have.